Chef, bather, diaper changer, provider, housekeeper, launderer, comforter, listener, spiritual advisor, doctor, nurse, friend, playmate, teacher, mother. On today's edition of Our Voices, we honor the women who raised us and made us the women we've become. I'm Ayen Bior, and here with me are my colleagues Hayde Adams-Fitzpatrick, Hadiza Kiari, and Auriane Istangishaka.
Thanks, Ayen. It's often said that motherhood is the hardest job in the world. And in this episode, we will share our personal experiences as being mothers and daughters. We'll also take a look at the joys and the challenges of motherhood in Africa and in the diaspora.
But before that, I'd like to introduce you to my own mother. In journalism, we try to avoid interviewing family members, but I could not imagine doing this show without featuring my mother's own voice. My mother is the kind of woman who has remained indestructible despite immense loss and unimaginable challenges. She's dodged bombs, walked hundreds of miles to get her children to safety, and crossed an ocean in hopes of finding new opportunities. This picture taken in 1976 of my mom, when she was 16 years old, is a rare glimpse of her teenage years when she felt she could become anything she wanted to be.
When I was a little girl, I actually have a very big dream, like I can go to school and be in somebody higher position, like lawyers and doctors.
But my mother set those dreams aside, got married at the age of 16, and began to make a family. By 1984, she had 2 kids and was planning to have more. But those plans were sidelined as her home country, Sudan, was in the midst of a civil war that would define the next few decades of her life. That same year, a boat she was on, traveling on the River Nile, headed to Bor, was targeted with bombs which she narrowly escaped. By late 1984, fearing the onset of further conflict, Mom packed her bags and walked with her children for 20 days to neighboring Ethiopia, where she would call the refugee camp in Gambela home for several years. Before she was 30 years old, my mom had experienced significant loss of home, loss of comfort, loss of her childhood dreams. But she says the loss of a child has been the source of her greatest heartache.
Cause was a baby, but it was very painful because I was in the village. When I have to carry a baby and crying, like it's gonna pass away. At that time was no one with me in the house, so I hear the crying of my baby and I crying too until she passed away. So that death was so painful to me because nobody was, beside me to help me. And I was still a child too. So after she passed, I, roll it up. And I have to call someone to come and help me to bury the baby.
But my mom says she had no choice but to keep going for the sake of the rest of us, her surviving children. My mom learned how to survive all over again when our family, which had grown to 9 people, moved to Dallas, Texas. America was a chance for her to finally provide for her family. But moving to the U.S. was a shock.
It was a challenge, but it was a lot better because you have to go fill up an application and have the job. And the time we came to, it was a very good time. You can have, if you want to work 5 jobs, at that time was so easy to get a job.
While she never worked 5 jobs at the same time, she regularly juggled 2, and at one point even 3 jobs at once. Working multiple jobs came at an emotional cost. She feared she wasn't spending enough time with her children.
The way we came this country, I was just focused about job. And I feel my kids, they don't feel the love of mom. Stay with mom and you hear a lot of things from your mom. I feel like I don't get anything from me. It just focus of job. Even my little one, Adit, she used to give me a kiss every morning. I see you tomorrow, Mom. That one is still, I feel bad about. Maybe they don't understand why I was doing that. Maybe they were thinking I'm just they are kids. They don't know the bill, how we have to have a lot of bill and the food.
But we kids did know. We knew of the sacrifices our mother had made throughout her lifetime and the way she selflessly set her own dreams aside to give her children a better life.
So this was probably the hardest interview that I've ever done. It was definitely the most emotional interview that I've ever done because I learned a lot about my mom, but I think the most shocking thing that I learned is when she said that when we were growing up, she felt like she was failing us because she wasn't always there, because she had 3 jobs. And I remember being shocked when she said that.
Because you just didn't see it that way.
I definitely didn't see it that way. You know, I mean, I saw a woman who was working 3 jobs to make sure that we were fed. I saw a woman who didn't speak English when she moved to the United States and learned English just so she can get her driver's license, just so she can get us to school. Everything that she did was always for us. So I didn't see it that way. I saw a woman with a work ethic that I admire even to this day.
Wow, that's, you know, I think about all the things that our mothers have gone through, and your mother's story is so poignant because to me, I see parts of my own mother's struggles in life, and we often learn from our mothers. And I remember one thing. My mother was unemployed for such a long time in my childhood, and I understood from a young age that we just didn't have what other people had. And I tried to make it as easy as possible on her by just showing her that I understand that, you know, because I was trying to emulate her, and I learned so much about my mother through watching her survive so many things, those lessons. But she showed up for us. And I think a child will never hold against a parent the things that they weren't able to provide for them materially. But knowing that your parent is out there doing those things for you, that's what a child remembers. The child remembers not the parent who gave them everything that they could want in terms of money and finances, but the parent who showed up for them. And I don't mean literally just showing up, but showing up at work for them.
You know, I can definitely relate to both of you. My mom passed away 2 years ago, and it's always really, really hard to talk about her without getting emotional. But I'm really gonna try. But what I hold on to is the legacy she left behind, and that's what keeps me going. I remember 4 things that she tells me over and over, and those things have stuck with me. Of course, marriage, which, you know, we all know not everyone has to get married, but for her, you have to get married, get an education, career, and you also have to be independent. And for her, when she talks about independence, it's not just about just being independent. She wants you to be in a happy home, but have a career. And, you know, don't try to compete with your husband, but have a career so that if tomorrow he's not there, you can still be able to, you know, provide for yourself
and for your children.
Right. And I know you said something about your mom having 3 jobs. I totally relate to that. My mom she was a mother. She was going to school at the same time. She was running her business. That's not an easy task to do, but the sacrifice is what I hold on to. This woman sacrificed to come be with me, to spend time with me, to help me with my daughter. And that's something I can never, ever, you know.
As a mom, you understand.
I understand. You cannot replace that.
Yeah, and also going back, Hadiza, to talk about your mother. I remember, as you know, in the first episode, you did talk about your mother, and I knew this topic will come up. And I was actually looking at our messages that come in from our viewers, and one of them specifically talked about you. And I mean, I didn't tell you, but just to encourage and to show that you talking about your mother is encouraging someone in Pakistan. And this is what she said. A few days ago, I watched your show where Hadiza was talking about her mother. It was my first time watching the show, and I really liked it. So Hadiza, as hard as it may be, I think that you're cementing the point of how valuable mothers are, and you talking about your mother who has passed is helping someone in Pakistan to see how strong you are.
Absolutely.
And that we should honor our mothers that we have, and those who have
you are
passed.
your mom's legacy. I mean, I'm sitting here right next to you, and I'm seeing this beautiful, intelligent, hardworking mother. I see your mother in you.
Right. That's right.
I think that's why it's so important for us to talk about our mothers. You know, talk about and document their lives. That story you did about your mother, Ayen, I'm like going back and thinking, I'm a journalist. I spend so much time in my life telling other people's stories, but I haven't yet told my mother's story. And as I grow older, I want to know more about who my mother was.
And that's the thing, we never really
she
tried
was
to
my
find
mother.
out.
These women had lives. They were something before they became our mothers. And I think these days with the technology that we have at our disposal, anyone can document the life of their mother, of their grandparents, because they're not going to be around forever.
That's so true. And you know, when I look at my mom's picture when she was younger, in my age when she was pregnant, and it really tells me a lot about her, how she carried herself, what she dressed like, what kind of person she was. So we really need to really look back to the mothers that we have
and the women who have these images now, right? We have these images now. I had, my mother taught me 4 things. I was listening to what you said about the things your mother taught me. My mother taught me, and I love you, Mummy, and I probably don't say it to my mother a lot. So I'm sitting here today because of all your sacrifices, Mummy, and I love you so much. And I thank you for teaching me to be my own woman, to make my own money, preserve my reputation, and to not wait for opportunity to come to me, but to learn to recognize opportunity when it's there and to grab hold of it.
Hayde, that's beautiful, and we definitely would not be here without our mothers. Well, coming up, we're going to talk about the pressures and challenges that are unique to motherhood and the societal pressure put on many women to become mothers.
So what's your take on this conversation? You can let us know on WhatsApp. Our number is on your screen. Or you can find us on social media. Our handle is @VOA Our Voices. Use the hashtag VOA Our Voices so we can find your comments. We'll be right back.
Like Voice of America on Facebook. Follow VOA on Twitter. Join VOA on our YouTube channel. Like, follow, join VOA.
You're with Our Voices. Welcome back. No one ever said motherhood was easy. It's a tough job. But any mother would tell you that it is also very rewarding. It's an opportunity to shape a life. Nowadays, to do it well, also while fulfilling modern societal demands. So for me, I'm currently shaping 3 lives. Here's a sneak peek in a day in my life as a full-time working mom in the diaspora. For me, it's everything times 3. Ready to face the world now. Still haven't arrived yet.
Good morning, good morning, good morning.
Good morning, what's up?
Not much.
How are you?
Good morning. Ooh. Let's get to work.
That's right, Ayen. No.
Hadiza.
That's right, Hadiza. We'll be right back. There's no shortcuts. There's no cutting corners. We were built for this. one thing I can say is that as a working mom, I'm a busy and tired mom almost all the time. And this is universal feeling from all mothers around the world, whether it be in the village, whether it be in the suburbs, or whether it be in the city. I mean, we have to support mothers through legislation, I think, because, you know, that's the one way we can show tangibly that we are supporting them in fulfilling the things that they need to do to be both working moms and to be professionals and to do everything that they need to do in society that men don't have to go through.
I just quickly want to say the three of you make it look so effortless.
I just quickly want to say, as a mother of 2 boys, you have got 3. I love you.
Down to you.
And also the other thing I want to say, I want to also advise young women who are working right now or going to school. I would advise you not to try to do both at the same time. Don't try to do school if you can. Don't try to do school and motherhood at the same time. It'll wear you out physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally. So it's just too much.
That's just the studies.
And you know, our mothers did that. You know, but that's done. It can be done. Our mothers actually did that. It can be done. But we're not them. You know, we don't have that stamina that they have.
I would say before you have kids, do everything you want to academic-wise and travel.
That's true.
Because you ain't going anywhere for a long time.
Not with my 3 kids. They're like luggage.
Yeah. You have to be mentally and physically
That's right.
prepared.
I think that I'm the only single woman on this panel, and everything that you guys are saying is true. But at the same time, there's a lot of pressure for me to become a mom, and I constantly have to tell people why I'm not a mom. The fact of the matter is, there are practical reasons why I'm not yet a mom. There's economic reasons. You mentioned school. I want to go to school, and I want to get that out of the way before I have kids. And then, of course, there's the problem of finding a man,
a good one.
exactly, a good man who my mom will approve of. So there's a lot of reasons.
But you know, my mother always told me, marry someone who is your equal. Stop being involved with men who live in your shadow. Marry someone who is your intellectual equal, who is your financial equal, so that you guys can be partners. And I think she didn't have that. You know, and we saw the consequences. We lived the consequences of that. So I think those are wise words, and especially for someone like you, Ayen, who you're out there, you're still looking, browsing, and all of that. You know, it is harder.
I think that
I just want the public to know that just because, you know, I'm not married and there's a lot of young women out there who are not married, there's nothing wrong with this.
Right. You know, there's so many challenges that people ignore. The challenges of single mothers.
Yeah,
you know, that's
a
lot of challenges. That's a burden on its own. There's a stigma attached to it.
Right.
You know, as a matter of fact, I know that in West Africa, if you're a single mother, you know, people look down on you. You know, it's harder for you to get someone to get remarried. As opposed
and there's also
to
a double standard because single fathers don't have that same
they
stigma.
don't have. Yeah, they don't
If
have
you're a
that.
single father, you're wonderful.
I know.
So bless them. But
Talking about the pressures also, Ayen, you talk about the pressures of becoming a mom. Once you become a mom on the continent, many countries on the continent, you have to, like in my region, you become a woman who is who get the pressure for becoming a mom of boys. Like I know some of the places in Burundi, Rwanda, and many places. If you can have 7 girls, they'll still be like, well, when are you going to have a boy?
But
As if,
at least
you know, so that you can, the
Yeah.
lineage has to continue through a boy. So you have that pressure not only to become a mom, but when you become a mom of a boy,
But you know,
and
like,
when
but
you
that's
become a
what-
boy, a good
I can
mom.
tell you that-
so the pressures are very.
But in
very,
West Africa, it's totally different. There's a pressure to just have kids, period. Nobody wants to know if it's a boy
that's
or
what
a
I'm
girl.
saying, like,
and
you
even
know-
when you do have one, they expect you to have several others, probably a dozen.
That's what I'm saying. Like you have a pressure to have children, and then you find yourself having a lot of children, trying to satisfy
Nobody's thinking
that.
about the economics, you know,
for us,
that
the
come into
pressure is
it.
about, can you cook? I can't cook.
Hayde, can you cook?
I cannot cook. I am
But
a
can your
terrible
husband cook?
Yes, he can. And I have my mother cooking. But I'm just a terrible cook. So that's why I don't cook. I'm trying to save humanity from my cooking.
You know, in Nigeria, they don't care if you can cook or, I mean, you can have your career, that's fine, but you have to know how to cook. You have to be a
this
wife.
Is why it's a good
Clean,
thing that I was
cook.
not born in Nigeria. But I want to just say something about single motherhood. You know, that is something that I'm pretty sure in many places, but it's also on the rise. We need, as more women are educated and more women are deciding to start families later, and some women are just deciding to not get married and have kids. Some of this is choice.
And
some
I think
women
not
are
having kids kids is also a choice.
Those
Because you can decide, I just want to be with my husband. But they might say it's a Western thing, it's a modern thing. But
some others want to just adopt.
It should be also okay.
Yeah,
Right.
what if you want to
don't
adopt?
have to give birth to be a mother. There's many different ways.
many
Right.
women who have raised children.
I don't have any daughters, but you could be a mother in many
But
ways.
can I just say that the mindset of the men has to change, because just speaking of my own mother and my own household, like I said earlier, she had 3 jobs and she was still expected to cook and clean.
Right.
And I don't think that's fair. I think that we should be open to realizing that the woman is very dynamic, and especially if she's working and going to school if she chooses to, we need to allow her to do that at the same time.
In the
Women's
northern
mindsets need
Nigerian
to change
culture,
too.
it is frowned upon for a man to change diapers, to feed the kids.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to do that. It's
But I
frowned.
think women's mindsets need to change as well. Older women, and I'm probably going to be slaughtered for saying this, but older women's mindsets need to change as well and stop giving men that free ride or the free ticket.
That's
and
very true.
that should be the expectation of them, and we should support our single mothers.
They're trying to fulfill a cultural.
But that's not to say that we think less of the man.
That's right.
Absolutely not.
And I think
absolutely
most
not.
of it is cultural pressures that I think each family individually can talk about. I think if they couples sit down and talk about it, and everybody is okay with the situation, I think it's good. I just also want to include how my mother, for me, she really focused a lot on education and faith. I mean, she knew that with those 2 things, you will prevail in life. And so, I hold on to them today. The education that I did, she did everything to make sure that I get an education and I stay as a faithful woman so that I can keep my head on my shoulder. Wow. After the break, we'll introduce you to a mother in the DRC who is balancing work and home to provide for her family and doing it with a smile. You want to stick around for that.
Welcome back. All across Africa, mothers overcome daily challenges to provide for their children. Well, VOA's Anastasi Tudiesh spent time with one mother in the Democratic Republic of Congo to see how she is making motherhood work.
My name is Hadiza. I'm a chief of service with the National Social Security Department. I'm 43. I have 3 to 4 schedules in one day. My mom's schedule, my job schedule, my sports schedule. I work out 3 times a week. I also have my me time that starts when the kids are sleeping. It is completely separated from whatever happened during the day. What I make is not enough to pay for my lifestyle, so I have to have a second job. I sell my clothing through WhatsApp. My supplier sends me pictures of shirts and bands that I send them to my clients. I have 3 kids. I would say mornings are the most complicated. I have signed them up for after-school activities, swimming, dance. I would say they need me for guidance mostly, for orientation and good education. I once was married. I'm not anymore. I have been living alone with my kids for almost 5 years. He does not help me at all, except for when all of a sudden he remembers he has children. But what he gives is not significant, really. Some days you have to make miracles, like make sure the kids have food on the plates, but I always find a way. A romantic life, possible but not easy, because the kids still have the father in mind. They will not understand. I am passionate about all things politics. I plan to become a politician when the kids are grown. I will start from the bottom up.
Wow. I don't know if I could do all of that.
Yeah, I know. I definitely couldn't do any of that.
She's a superwoman. That's a superwoman right there.
That's what you call a superhero.
Well, speaking of all these amazing superwomen, today in our Women to Watch segment, we are honoring every woman who is a mother to someone. We see your sacrifice and your selflessness, and we want to say thank you.
We now turn to our viewers on the continent and in the diaspora with Mother's Day wishes, including my mom.
I would like to wish every mother in Africa and around the world a happy Mother's Day. I also would like to encourage mothers in the diaspora to keep up the good and hard work of raising their children, despite the challenges of not having enough support. We know that in Africa, it takes a whole village to raise a child.
Wish my mother a happy Mother's Day.
I want to use this opportunity to wish my mother a very wonderful, happy Mother's Day. I love you, Mom. Thank you for always being there.
Unfortunately, my mom passed away in 2012. That's my birth mom. But I do have another mother, and I also have a few important women in my life that have basically mothered me. So I would like to wish them a happy Mother's Day, and I would also like to wish my mom, who's no longer with me physically, a happy Mother's Day also.
She was my sister, my friend, my best friend, and I remember her today because I miss her every day. But I am lucky and happy to have Hadiza, her daughter, who is my niece, at least to see her and talk to her.
I'd like to give a tribute to Mommy. It was just like yesterday when Almighty Allah perfected His plans for you. We miss you and we love you. You're a pillar of strength and a shining example of what love, humility, service to mankind and God ought to be.
That was my family, by the way. Aww. My mother touched so many lives, including mine. You know, there's no way I could ever repay her. She's not even here for me to do so. What difference has your mother made in your life? Use the hashtag VOA Our Voices and let us know.
Be sure to watch Our Voices on the VOA website, where you can find the world's top news stories and other episodes of Our Voices.
We leave you with a quote from the late Professor Yosef Ben Jochanan, who was born in Ethiopia and taught at Cornell University for over 15 years. The Afrocentric historian whose work focused mainly on Black presence in ancient Egypt and affectionately called Dr. Ben. He used his voice to say, "Without you, African mother, there would have been no us, African fathers, sons, and daughters. Do we need to say any more, African mothers, our own true goddesses? Let us praise you to the highest, telling the world about your righteousness. Let us tell the entire universe about your sacredness, African woman."
And on that very sacred note, that is our show for this week. From all of us here at Our Voices, we wish you, mothers of Africa, a very happy Mother's Day. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.